Vikings fans, you are listening to the Purple People podcast. My name is Kyle West. I got Adam Carlson.
I am sitting on my couch.
Kyle Smith.
What's up, everybody?
Well, we're going to talk about some Vikings football.
Yeah, we are.
We sound
And I'm guessing you guys didn't hear a lot of excitement in my voice, but
we sound so thrilled.
yeah, this
Yay!
isn't like last week when we were celebrating winning the NFC North title, but we are. Red Helson got a unique honor this week when he was chosen to blow the Gyar horn this week, for this week's game. But there was a little problem.
The horn broke.
It
It was
did.
so cold that the horn just shattered. They had a replacement one.
Yeah,
So,
luckily the
yeah.
Vikings had a backup horn, which made me think of like a room in the back where they just had tons of these things
They've just
stored.
got stacks and stacks and stacks of them piled
Horns
up.
everywhere. It's weird to think about, but it sure is something.
Speaking of something, how about Adrian Peterson, All-Pro?
Yeah, we talked about him being the only Viking that was on the Pro Bowl team, and he's also the only Viking that made the All-Pro first team.
Mm-hmm.
I say that because the Vikings did have someone make the second team, and it was nobody I thought it would have been.
Yay, Mr. Irrelevant.
If you'd have told me it was Harrison Smith, I'd have been like, oh, okay, cool. Joe Berger, I'd have been like, all right, yeah, he had a great year. Great year. Anthony Barr, I'd have been like, well, he was injured a little bit, but all right, you know.
Good season, great plays from him, though.
Same thing with
Linval
Linval Joseph, but no. Cordero Patterson, second team All-Pro kick returner.
He does a
So congrats to CPAT.
he does a really good job of consistently getting the ball to the 20-yard line.
This is true.
It's true.
Yeah.
Got to keep that average up.
Yep.
3 former Minnesota Vikings were named finalists for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Brett Favre, Morton Anderson, and Tony Dungy all could be part of the Hall of Fame class of 2016.
I'd say two of them are a pretty big lock to get in.
Favre and Anderson?
Yes, definitely Favre and Anderson.
I'm serious. Anderson's the NFL's leading scorer. He should be in there.
Well, he probably should be, but I would say Tony Dungy would be the one that I would say is the lock to go in with Brett Favre.
Boo!
You can boo all you want, but it's true.
Boo!
That's a
Kickers
tough
need
one.
love too.
They'll never get the love. It's so
It's a
sad.
bad week to bring that up, Adam.
That's how important kickers are right there. For Week 17 of the NFL season, defensive end Everson Griffin was named the NFL's Defensive Player of the Week.
It's pretty
Good old
sweet.
Everson Griffin.
He was kicking some tail over there on Lambeau Field, getting all up near and around and in Aaron Rodgers' face. So good for him.
Absolutely. So many pieces of this Vikings team that when they shine and shine together, this team can be very, very difficult. And we saw that in this week's game against Seattle. The defense clicking, making things happen. They kept the Vikings in that game the whole time. But before we start talking about statistics, situations, and all that kind of thing, let's discuss who we're going to give our game ball to and who we're going to name our donkeys. Give mine to linebacker Eric Kendricks. He was all over the football field, and he was great in coverage. 2 passes defended, led the team in tackles. He is really going to be something special for the Vikings for a long time at that middle linebacker spot. With what they have going on there with him and Anthony Barr, it's exciting to watch that linebacker group grow.
Wouldn't be surprised if he gets in the mix for the Rookie of the Year. He's such a steal. He's my favorite draft pick in the last couple of years, next to Anthony Barr.
You should have seen on draft day all of my Packer fan friends when he was still on the board when they were picking in the first round. They were chanting his name, and then when they didn't pick him, oh, it was a riot. So thank you, every team that passed on Eric Kendricks.
Yes, definitely.
Anybody else that wants to give away a game ball, go ahead.
I guess I'm going to jump in and say Mr. Trey Waynes. I just want to thank all the people that pooped on him for the most of the year. This kid stepped in today in the most crucial game of the year so far, got his first interception, and he definitely, I'm not going to say he looked better than Xavier Rhodes today, but he definitely looked the part. I mean, it looked like he had been doing this for 2 or 3 years now. When you do the coverage as a corner, especially to break up passes, I know Xavier got called one time because he didn't turn around and make contact or eye contact with the ball, see where the ball was being placed. Trey had no problem with that. And, Seattle likes to take shots down the field. Russell Wilson can certainly do it, but Trey Waynes played an awesome game today, and this is more than just him contributing on special teams like we usually see. So I was very impressed with that, and I hope that's a sign of things to come.
Very true. When he got the opportunity to come in, he made some plays, made things happen, didn't get the flags, and he had that nice interception off a tipped ball that I know people are saying the ball landed right in his hands, easy interception, but those can
People
get
are
dropped
never
too.
satisfied. They're never
There's no such
satisfied.
thing as an easy interception. You got to catch
He,
that football.
he could have ran that back for a touchdown, and they still would have complained that he didn't run fast enough. I'm just really happy to see that a first-round talent is starting to show that he's worth the value he was taken at.
It's true. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. West, what do you got for us? Game ball.
Well, since it was the last game of the season for the Vikings, I'm going to go ahead and do something a little bit different with mine. I wanted to split mine up between some veteran players who may or may not be back next year, just for overall, time with the team and I think having a good performance. So I'm going to give a game ball to Chad Greenway, Joe Berger, and Terrence Newman. Those are the three veterans. Chad talking about retirement.
Now he's discussing one more year. He wants one more year.
Now he's saying one more year. You never know with Terrence Newman. He's got 13 years in the league. Joe Berger's 11. We'll get part of it to Sean Hill, too. Heck, he's 14 years in the league as well. So just veterans on a really, young Minnesota Vikings team that just get some recognition for all they do, especially, Chad Greenway, who's been such a huge part of this team for such a long time now.
Very nice.
Absolutely. Donkey, this is a hard one for me because I feel like the entire defense did a fantastic job, so I can't pick a donkey from there. Special teams, I felt that they scored every point in this game, so I couldn't go there. So I had to go with the guy I ranted on last week and the guy that didn't really get it done again this week.
Yep.
Adrian Peterson, 23 carries, 45 yards, 2 yards per carry, and he lost a fumble on a catch. He did catch the 2 passes for 13 yards with the 1 fumble, but Vikings need more from him. They need more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to piggyback on that because I haven't piggybacked in a long time. He was also my donkey this week. Look, I'm congratulations to him last week for getting the rushing title before even starting the game against Green Bay. But rushing yards overall the whole season, they come from 17 games. Those 16 games rather. Those 16 games might as well be a fart in the wind coming to playoff time. I need you to produce, and I need you to produce against top quality teams. And you are on your home turf today. And Adrian Peterson fumbling issues continue to haunt him. And he seems to pick the worst times to fumble. We had a ton of momentum going, and they scored points off of that. Granted, it was only a field goal. They scored off of an AP fumble, and it's very, very disheartening, and I'm going to talk about that later. But sorry, I had him pre-planned, and I don't care what you guys say. We're going to talk about it in a minute, but there's no way I'm giving my donkey to the guy who scored the most field goals in the league this year and scored our only points today. I just cannot do it, and I'm not going to.
No.
It would be really super easy to give it to Blair Walsh, and I feel like that's what a lot of the fans would do right now. They would give it to Blair, but this is going to be a first that I think we're all unanimous. The three of us are going to give it to Adrian Peterson for our donkey. But seriously, this is... I'm really over him having this issue of there's a big game and you're supposed to rely on your star players to come up. And every single time that the pressure is really super on Adrian, he fumbles the football. And it happened
But let's
again.
not take anything away from what Seattle did there. They made a fantastic play. One defender was holding his other arm so he couldn't get two arms on the ball.
Hmm.
Another jarred the ball loose with two arms compared to one arm. Peterson was put in a situation there where I don't know if there's a running back in the league that could have held on to the football.
Could have had two hands on it before.
I don't know how he would have gotten a third hand.
Because he was running with it real super low the entire time, Adam. I disagree with you on that. He could have had 3 steps before there were defenders close to him. He should have had two hands on the football with
I
it.
know, I agree.
He's running with it real super low and loose and off to his side on that
He
play
likes to do
the
that
whole
when he
time.
wants to make
Yeah.
cuts. He likes to do that when he wants to make cuts. He likes to do that when he wants to try to. It's almost as if he dismisses who's in front of him, like he already thinks he's going to beat them, and that didn't happen. And I applaud AP because that's him just being a monster and wanting to think he can run through everyone. But this is like the 5th fumble of the season, I believe, and it's a problem. And fumbles are never good anyways, but it never comes at a good point in time in the game. So, but this is crazy. I don't think we've ever unanimously gave a donkey away.
Yeah, that is Adrian Peterson's 8th fumble of the season.
8. That's even worse.
He's only lost 4, though. I guess that's something.
How many touchdowns did he score this year?
11, I believe.
11?
Yep, 11.
Yeah. I think he was tied for the most.
11 touchdowns, 8 fumbles.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Not a very good ratio. But let's stop piling it on Adrian. Let's start talking about the rest of the skill positions here. Teddy Bridgewater, 17 for 24, 146 yards. He was sacked 3 times. Interestingly enough, he did set a Minnesota Vikings playoff record by completing 70.8% of his passes, the highest by a Vikings quarterback in a playoff game.
I
That's
thought
pretty
by and
awesome.
large Teddy looked fine. I mean, there were some issues with the offense. Obviously, we need him to score more touchdowns. You know, you can't just rely on field goals to win a playoff game like that. So part of that has to go on Teddy as well as your receivers and tight ends and whatnot. But I thought by and large he played fine.
I think Teddy Bridgewater came to this game asking to play the high percentage, short pass, pick up first downs, grind out the clock, and I believe that's exactly what he did.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't make mistakes. He didn't turn the ball over. He also didn't take a ton of crazy chances, which is why we don't see the high number of interceptions or big number of yards. He also did get bailed out on. Well, I won't say bailed out, but had the benefit of a big pass interference call on the last drive of the game. So it wasn't just
very clutch.
Yeah. People that are complaining that Teddy Bridgewater didn't do enough to win this game, I am not sure that is an accurate statement. I believe he did exactly what was asked of him, and I think that when this team is ready to give Teddy Bridgewater a bigger chance, a bigger shot to prove that he can do what he can do, we'll see a much better play from him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still a believer. I know there are others that have already jumped the ship and are saying, draft a quarterback. He can't throw touchdowns. He can't throw the deep ball. He's injured too much, misses too many plays, dances in the pocket, all this kind of stuff.
I need to see these people you're talking about because they need to be educated. It sounds very ignorant.
He's a young quarterback. He's making mistakes, and I get that. And every once in a while, you got to throw a jumping left-handed pass. You got to do it.
Yeah, once a season, you're allowed one.
One mulligan.
I mean, we'll have all off-season to debate this, but it really comes down to, like you said, Adam, what was he asked to do? We can only speculate, but you would have to imagine that he did exactly what the Vikings wanted him to do. There will be, I believe, a different game plan, a different mindset coming into the 2016 season, where it's maybe not going to be so focused on feed the ball to Adrian Peterson every single down. But like I said, we got all off season to talk about that.
Very true. Very true. Mm-hmm. But overall, I like what I see from the young man, and I think he's going to keep growing and developing.
Can we skip before we go to the running backs? I want to give a shout out. We can cover them now if you want. Kyle Rudolph almost got my game ball because he was a non-factor all day. They were looking for a good matchup. You got to remember, Seattle's defense is disgustingly good, and
Mm-hmm.
I think honestly, these teams mirror each other a lot, minus the fact that Russell Wilson's in a completely different league as far as quarterback play. But we mirror this team a lot, and we're looking for that matchup in a crucial situation. He fights to get open. He's still fighting into the 50th whatever minute into this game, and gets the good flag, and then sure enough, Teddy goes for him again. He makes a crucial catch and just keeps chugging along. And it was, I mean, he's the one who set us up for the field goal chance, to be honest. So I want to give a shout out to Kyle Rudolph. Non-factor all day, but coming in the clutch, I wanted to give him like the honorary mention for that because he came up big at the very end of the game.
Absolutely understandable. You'd want to give him some recognition for that. Running backs, we went down Adrian Peterson's stat line, which was kind of yuck.
2.0 yards per carry. Did we mention that?
Yuck.
Yeah.
Jerick McKinnon, 2 carries for 7 yards. Stephon Diggs had 1 for 6. Teddy ran 3 times and got nothing.
Quarterback sneak was nice, though. That was pretty sweet.
It's weird on a team when you have Adrian Peterson that you have to rely on your quarterback with skinny knees and all that to churn a pile.
Teddy is more athletic than I think that maybe he even wants to give himself credit for, and he looks so awkward when he runs. I hope that's something that he kind of works on this off season, because I do feel like there could be maybe some, I don't know, what do you want to call it, hidden yardage or whatever, if he would just maybe be a little more confident in his ability to rush.
It's true. It might be a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Receiving yards, Stephon Diggs led the team in targets with 6, caught 4 of them. 26 yards there. Jerick McKinnon was targeted 5 times, caught 3 for 22 yards. Kyle Rudolph had the 1 big catch for 24 yards. Michael Pruitt had 2 for 20. Passed the ball around quite a bit. As usual, Teddy Bridgewater doesn't care who he throws the ball to as long as they're open.
Mm-hmm.
Can I say something too? If you guys watched the game today, which I'm sure a lot of us did, we're probably all just putting our tissues away now. I wanted to think that this game wasn't going to be competitive, even though I have the utmost faith in this team. They proved me wrong last week when I didn't think they were going to win in Green Bay. Seattle's secondary has always been pretty scary, and this isn't taking anything or anyone away from our receivers. But we don't have a true legit number 1 wideout. We all know that. We're looking for one. We thought Mike Wallace would be one. But I just wanted to say a couple of times today, Stephon Diggs and Jarius Wright had Richard Sherman's number. And I don't know if you guys saw the plays on that, but they were getting their jukes. They were getting their cuts. And at one point, I saw Jarius Wright get a first down for us, and he completely burned Richard Sherman. So even with the guys that we have now that aren't legit number 1s, our wide receiver core just keeps finding a way to get open, which kills some of these teams that are, 6-10 out there. They need those guys to get open all the time, and they can't. But our guys find a way. I think they did a good job, even though the numbers don't jump off the page.
Absolutely. We did mention the only fumble of the game from the Minnesota Vikings came from Adrian Peterson. Defensively, Eric Kendricks led the team in tackles with 6. Up next, we had Eric Kendricks had 8. Everson Griffin had 6. Chad Greenway, Xavier Rhodes, and Anthony Barr all had 4. The sacks, there were only 2 on the day. One came from Everson Griffin and the other came from Sharif Floyd. Pass defense, quite a few there. Eric Kendricks with 2. Xavier Rhodes with 2. Andrew Sandejo with 1, and he almost had an interception there on that diving attempt at a pick. That was pretty close right there. Trey Wayne's 2 pass breakups. 8 pass breakups for the Minnesota Vikings. Pretty impressive right there, especially considering that Russell Wilson only missed 15 passes on the day.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen a defensive end fake a spin like what Everson Griffin did?
I have been, and I love watching it.
Oh, geez. I mean, that was awesome. That was one of my favorite plays of the season.
When you've got a left tackle that is very reactionary, he can fall for moves like that. And I think that Everson Griffin saw that he was kind of expecting, okay, he's only got a handful of moves. So when Everson Griffin busted that one out, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. I really enjoyed watching this Minnesota Vikings defense work. It's one of those situations where, yeah, there might have been a lot to do with the temperature, messing things up for the Seattle Seahawks. They seem to have trouble getting the snaps off at a reasonable time in this game. But we also saw these young players continue to grow and develop. Like Eric Kendricks, just absolutely amazing performance. Xavier Rhodes, he might have had that one big penalty, but overall, I thought he had a really solid day.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Barr all over the place. When you can hold the Seattle Seahawks to one touchdown an entire game, that is absolutely awesome. The Seahawks,
They've been on
I know a
fire
lot of people
lately.
don't think of having an amazing offense, but they do. They absolutely do, and they were coming into this game. The fact that this was even a matter of thought that there are some Vikings fans out there blaming the secondary for giving up a touchdown at the end of the game or in the fourth quarter is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely unbelievable. The Vikings led 9-0 going into the fourth quarter and gave up all 10 points in the fourth quarter without scoring a single point to lose. And that's heartbreaking right there.
This game was just heartbreaking in general. You could feel the momentum that we had. The elements were to our advantage. The crowd was amazing. Mike Zimmer talked about that in his post game presser. It was just the pure definition of Vikings football at the very end.
It was hard to take. I was surprised that neither of you chose Jeff Locke for your donkey. 5 punts, 34.4 yards per punt. Only one landed inside the 20. It was a pretty brutal day for Jeff Locke.
Well, it was pretty brutal for both punters, it seemed like.
Oh, John Ryan taking that hit.
And I'm
That was
gonna
amazing.
imagine that kicking those frozen footballs couldn't be easy, so I kind of overlooked that because it was kind of equal on both sides of the football for both
But
teams.
Jeff Locke also had the Ray Finkel problem going on there.
Yeah, I know.
Twice. Let's not forget it wasn't just the end of the game. This was on one of Blair's 40-plus yard field goals. They made a very big highlight about that. It wasn't just the end of the game that might have caused it. He did that earlier in the game as well.
What did you guys think about the end of the game where instead of lining up Blair Walsh on the right hash where he likes to kick from, they decided to let Adrian have full run to try to get the first down by running to the left? Or do you feel that was something they even planned or talked about at all?
I don't think they did.
I don't know. Tough to say.
Because you'd think the main thing would be to get your kicker in the most comfortable position for him.
Right.
And we know as Vikings fans that he loves that right hash.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, yeah, the game might have been able to be put away if Adrian picked up a first down. But there's no guarantee that he would have made it from there either.
You play dangerous game of what if, you can say that what if it was on, like you said, the other side, and it goes through and it bangs the upright and goes in for a game-winning field goal.
There's too many what ifs.
Yeah.
We have to run with what happened. I
Yep.
mean, there's always the thought too, like, somebody said that today. They're like, well, say you beat Seattle today, what do you expect to do against Arizona? I'm like, I don't know, man. That was a heartbreaker in Arizona too. Who knows? But there's too many what ifs. That's what I said
But this
earlier.
isn't really a what if. This is actual game planning.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they asked that to Mike after the game, but he didn't have any. He said there
He
wasn't really
didn't give
a
us
plan
any
for that.
insight at all. That's why I was asking
None.
you guys what you thought.
I would think my gut would tell me that Mike Zimmer was playing for the touchdown. He wanted to get the first down. Yeah, playing for the first down because he wanted to pound the ball in and get a touchdown, and probably was not thinking, we're not going to make this, we're not going to convert it.
But he still could have tried for a first down by running to the right, even if there was nothing there. And then you still leave your kicker in the spot where he likes to be. I don't know. To me, it was a really odd sequence of events that led to a moment where that shouldn't have happened. But just so frustrating to watch the end of that game because the Vikings had things under control until the momentum started slipping away. We had that bad snap for Seattle that went over Russell Wilson's head, and Wilson just picked it up and found an open man in the secondary.
That
And then,
right there is one of those plays that's going to live on in infamy for Vikings fans from now until the end of time. You know that?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Then we had the Adrian Peterson fumble, and all the momentum was on the Vikings side until those two events happened.
Hmm.
After that, the Vikings, as a fan, I felt like the momentum was gone.
Before those plays, when you looked at Russell Wilson and his body expressions and his face, he looked frozen. He looked ready to go home.
He was frustrated.
Yes, he was frustrated. The Seahawks look absolutely beat until that momentum shift, and then suddenly, just everything was clicking for him.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
It's so weird when you watch a game and you can feel it slipping away, and you can watch and know exactly what's happening, and there's nothing you can do about it. And you watch the players react to it, but that's about it.
I think Seattle knows it too. I think they know they got to give me today. You saw Richard Sherman just laying on the field looking like he was praying to Buddha on a little mat. He was just relieved, which I feel bad for them too. You see them go to the Super Bowl last year. They all but gave that game away at the very end of it. So they know how this feels. They were on a bigger stage than we were today, but I'm pretty sure they understand that they know they got a freebie today.
Hmm.
From what I read, Cam Chancellor, one of the safeties for the Seattle Seahawks, went into the Minnesota Vikings locker room following the game and congratulated them on a season that just saw Minnesota do things that a lot of people didn't think Minnesota could do this year.
Does that mean
Who you said
he's
it was?
Cam Chancellor, right?
That's
Yep.
fantastic. That's a ton of respect right there.
Does that mean he's going to defect after the season's over and come to Minnesota?
Come on
I don't know.
over.
You'd have to have a pretty big wallet.
We can talk about that in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, we'll be freeing up some cap space. I can think of a couple guys. Gonna go.
But overall, I guess I've got to be happy for the Vikings to be where they're at. When we started this season as podcasting, I thought that this was a 9-win Vikings team. I didn't see them contending for the division. I said that they'd miss the playoffs by a hair. And honestly, I'm so happy to be so wrong about all those things.
It's amazing. I was just watching NFL Network. It was Dion. There's a Marshall Faulk, and they were going back and forth. Marshall Faulk was just absolutely pooping all over Blair Walsh, and I hate it because you can't. I'm not going to say it for the third time today. You guys can go back and see what I said about Blair, but like you said, you thought we were going to miss this the playoffs by a hair, not contend for the division. You had to have hope, which I know we all had the hope for it, but once you get over the initial bummer of losing this game, you have to look back and see on what we got accomplished this year. No one expected us to go in Lambeau and win the division there. We all thought it might come down to week 17, but everybody bet against us. We beat two good playoff teams in the Packers and the Chiefs, and they both won today. We took them out earlier in the year. We competed with Denver, number 1 seed in the AFC. We competed with Arizona. Look at the turnaround that Mike Zimmer did and game plan from the first time we played Seattle. You have to walk away with a positive vibe in this because there's so much to be excited for the next season. And even though it was really fun playing at TCF, we got a badass new stadium we're about to go in and call home. So I think the momentum change there is going to be great there too. So there's a lot of things to look forward to. It's a crappy way to end the season, but there's a lot of things that we did that a lot of people didn't think we were going to do, like you said, Adam.
The Vikings showed that they can hang with the NFL's best already, and they just keep getting better. Be interested to see how this offseason goes, what more pieces they can add to the puzzle to make this team even better. It sucks that we got to start talking about holes in the team and draft position and all that kind of stuff now, but we knew the dream couldn't last forever.
That's sorry. I got off on a little tangent there because I just got the emotion came in. But that's what I was talking about for NFL Network. Dion said that Mike Zimmer, they're only 3 or 4 players away from legitimately contending for a title. There's
Hmm.
going to be a momentum shift, which I totally agree. You find two or three guys this year's draft, maybe one the next year. Combine that with a young quarterback, and then the new home and the new stadium that we have. But you got to think, Mike Zimmer was doing a lot of stuff this year with smoke and mirrors. We have Terrence Newman, who's what 37. What game was that we played where we just shifted our secondary around and we still won? I forget which game that was. It was recently, probably a month ago. The things that he does as a coach, some of the stuff he's doing on the fly. When you get legit superstars on your team, keep drafting the Eric Kendricks and the Anthony Barrs out there. Go find the Stephon Diggs. I mean, you got to be impressed with what we're doing. We're definitely on the rise.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
So for the social media question this week, we asked you guys, to beat the Seattle Seahawks, what do you think is more important? Adrian rushing for 100 or Teddy throwing for 250? Well, we can look back now and know that neither of those came really close to happening at all. Teddy only threw for 146, Adrian only ran for 45, but one of my favorite commenters and people in general, Dorian Foley, says he would go with Adrian rushing for over 100. Teddy B can still contribute by taking care of the football and controlling the clock.
Good old
Great
Dorian.
answer.
Good guy, great guy. We like Dorian.
Brian Alice says Teddy throwing for 250. If the passing game gets going, they won't be able to settle the run, and it'll keep them guessing on defense. Alex Zeller says AP because that will hopefully force Seattle to key on him and stop him by putting extra men in the box, opening up the passing game. Kevin Newman says Peterson needs his carries, the O-line needs to do their job and keep Teddy on his feet.
Good answer.
Julie Palmer-Wills says Teddy doesn't need to throw for 250. The offense needs to have 0 turnovers. Yards after catch will be very important, and the defense needs to create turnovers. And she hit the nail on the head right there. Absolutely. Ken Tomlin says, to me, it's not so much about the yardage, it's about these 3 things. Third down conversion rate, AP touches / yards per carry, and Teddy Bridgewater's completion rate. We had a lot of people say both, which, come on, guys. That's cheating. That's absolutely cheating.
I mean, in a perfect world, of
AP
course.
run all over the place, and if Teddy could just have every week like he had against Chicago, I think we'd be in good shape. That's not too much to ask, right?
I don't think so.
I think we'll keep seeing Teddy grow and develop, and these high percentage passes will be added to maybe a couple more lower percentage passes for bigger plays. It's a mix that'll come. I'm not worried about it happening.
All season long, I feel like Teddy, almost every game, is just barely a miss or two off from connecting with some big deep throw or deep pass that would be a touchdown or a large gain or something. And
He had
then,
a couple passes this game that hit people in the hands.
yeah, and then suddenly a lot of the conversation about, oh, Teddy can't throw the deep ball and this, that, and the other thing, it goes away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking at it now. I mean, we're going to recap this, but I'm looking at him from last year to this year. There are subtle changes that you have to be excited about. He had more yards. He had less interceptions. He had a better completion percentage. He had more rushing touchdowns. He had more attempts and more completions overall. I mean, I don't know what you guys expect when they God, like we were talking about earlier in the show. We need to draft a quarterback for what? To be a backup? This is our guy.
I mean, potentially, Sean Hill's going to be gone.
Sean Hill ain't gonna stick around too much longer.
Yeah, I mean I'm completely okay with that. Trying to mold somebody, or we go back and call in our guy McLeod if we could find him again. That'd be great. But
I think he's a free agent.
Hey, you
I'm
know
all
what?
right with keeping Heineke on. I like him. I like that kid.
There you go. Yeah, a lot of these people, I don't know why this is still a conversation. Teddy's not it. Well, who is? Who's going to come in and do better?
Quarterback is the most essential position in the NFL. We saw that with the Houston Texans this week.
Ugh, garbage.
We saw that with the Cincinnati Bengals this week.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw it with Big Ben and the Steelers this week. even though that the Steelers game was
Controversial.
it was something, that's for sure. But with so many people having so many different opinions on what a quarterback has to be, you have so many different schools of knowledge as far as wanting a quarterback that completes a high percentage of passes. A lot of people are happy with an Alex Smith type. Other people want, the Blake Bortles type, the player that isn't afraid to take a huge chance, even if it means turning the ball over a little more often. The big plays, some people just measure a quarterback based on that. Because let's be honest, you're not going to see a lot of Teddy Bridgewater highlights on ESPN. You're not. If Teddy Bridgewater throws a touchdown, odds are it's not going to be a 60-yard bomb. It's going to be a smart play where he got it to a receiver, tackles were missed, and yards were picked up after the catch. That's typically the way it's going to be. And I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. As a matter of fact, we are going to ask you guys about how you felt about the 2015 season in general for our social media question of the week. So watch for the question, do you feel that the Minnesota Vikings had a successful 2015 season? We'll take a look at your answers. We'll use them on the show just like we did this week. And looking forward to hearing your responses. And I understand that we've got a pretty bold statement coming up.
Yep. I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. I anticipate it. I'm gonna make sure I promote this on the page. It's not gonna be the social media question, but it is gonna be open as a thread. Kyle Smith's bold statement of the week is as follows: I believe we should get rid of Adrian Peterson in the offseason. And I'll give you two reasons why. I think his best days are behind him, and I'm gonna take his thunder away. And a lot of people are gonna be mad at me for this because you play the what if game. Jamal Charles and Le'Veon Bell were down this year, and Adrian Peterson won the rushing title. I firmly believe that if those two were back in the mix, he would not have. Not taking anything away from him. 1,400 plus yards as a 30-year-old running back is amazing. But the fumbling issue is becoming a problem. I do believe we need to upgrade in the offensive line. We've got to do better protection for Teddy. That'll also create lanes for Jerick McKinnon. But here's my theory on getting rid of Adrian Peterson. I think after he gets his rushing title and proves that he's still a beast, we could get maybe a second or third round pick for him. Maybe somebody will take the hit financially. If you guys want to crap on Teddy every week and say he doesn't progress and he doesn't develop, well, here's your chance. Get rid of an older running back who's taking a ton of our money. Let's get him a solid number one wideout with that money if you can get one. If not, get him some more Stephon Diggs. Get him another Kyle Rudolph. I don't care. Get Teddy the wide receiving core to make him step up and progress, because he's not going to be able to do that. Or go out and get a lineman that's highly rated and is a free agent. I don't care. Keep him upright. One of the two needs to happen. But I think we should cut Adrian Peterson, trade him, do whatever we need to do to get him off the team. Probably go for a trade. I don't know why I say cut. See what we can get on what his worth is now that he's the rushing leader and he has somewhat of a nice little gold medal around his neck per se, because he's still of value. A year ago, with all the allegations, I don't think anybody really wanted to take too much of a risk to get him, or they wanted too low of value for him. I think we can get a lot for him now that he's reclaimed that status and proved he's still a pretty good workhorse.
Well, let's talk about the status of the running back in the NFL, because there's a really interesting trend going on. Entering the wild card week of the NFL, there are 12 playoff teams, correct?
Correct.
Of those 12 teams, one team had a running back that ran for over 1,000 yards. And now there are 0 running backs left in the playoffs that have ran for over 1,000 yards. So with all the emphasis that the Vikings have placed on the running back position, whether it's money that they've invested in Adrian Peterson, draft picks, Adrian Peterson in the past, Jerick McKinnon presently, the run-blocking offensive linemen, all the time, effort, and money that they've invested into the running game, are they chasing the past?
I think they are. And you know what's a solid point? The win differential is a big thing, but I believe the defense helped a lot more than per se Adrian did. I'm not taking anything away from him. He's still a very, very good, arguably the best running back in the league. But he's only going to go down from a hill from here. And look what we did last year with Jerick McKinnon and Matt Asiata. Matt Asiata, for God's sake, was what, third on the list for rushing touchdowns last year?
Oh yeah.
Way cheaper, way effective. You're going to save Jerick McKinnon's legs and knees. Matt Asiata is a good blocker too, and he can catch sometimes. I don't say all the time, but no different than with Adrian. But these guys hang on to the ball. I mean, I'm sorry. I know this is fresh. There's a little bit of emotion in what I'm saying, but I'm tired of AP fumbling, and I'm tired of him being the so-called best running back in the league and having 45-yard days. He's got to produce. He's got to do better than that. And for the money we're paying him, I'm sorry. But that's just my opinion.
Okay, it won't be a popular opinion, I know, because there are a lot of people that are only Vikings fans because of what Adrian Peterson has brought to the Vikings, what Adrian Peterson has helped build. And it's easy to forget that sometimes now watching games, seeing him having the problems of picking up yardage consistently, getting back to the line of scrimmage, his ball security issues. It's just a problem that he's been having recently. But we can't forget the things that he's also contributed in the past. Sadly, this is a league that asks, what have you done for me lately?
Yep.
And although capturing a rushing title is impressive, capturing a rushing title has proven to not be absolutely that great of a thing if you want to be a Super Bowl champion.
And you just got to think about the teams out there that are desperate for a running game, any sort of running game whatsoever. Maybe they're willing to throw out a second-round pick for AP, a Dallas Cowboys. I mean, he would thrive there with the offensive line. Cleveland needs a running back. There's so many teams that are one or two players away from catching that wild card spot to get in. And running back is a position they're either going to look for in the draft in the first two rounds, or they're going to try to find a free agent. And
Could you
I don't
imagine
know.
the marketing in Dallas with Johnny Manziel and Adrian Peterson?
Go for it. I mean, I'm all for it. I'm playing general manager right now in my own head. I have nothing personal against AP. I'm looking at the stats in the paper, and then I'm looking at the cap hit, and I'm thinking about the future. And first thing I think about past AP is Teddy Bridgewater. I want to see a Julio Jones, or I want to see an AJ Green type come in as a wide receiver for Teddy, so he can start launching the ball somewhere, and we can get away from having to worry about handing it to AP 23 times in a game against good talent like Seattle, and him only getting 45 yards and a fumble and no touchdowns. I'm sorry.
Recently, one of our writers on the Viking Age, Jordan Wright, wrote a really interesting article summing up the Minnesota Vikings and how they ended up the season according to Pro Football Focus. Now, what he did was he rated the players based on their Pro Football Focus score, and he added the salary alongside them. Did you know that of the top 5 players on offense for the Minnesota Vikings, as far as Pro Football Focus grades, only one of them makes over $2 million a season?
That's an interesting fact. You're only helping my case, and who might that be, sir?
Number 1 at 89.5 was Joe Berger, making $1.12 million. Stephon Diggs, number 2, at 82, making $491,000. Mike Harris, number 3, 80.3, about $1.5 million there. Number 4 was Adrian Peterson at 77.4, making $15.65 billion. Then you got Teddy Bridgewater at 76.8, $1.556 million.
It's crazy. There you have it, folks.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of resources going into a handful of players.
If I'm Rick Spielman, I'm looking at it and I'm going, what's best for the team moving forward in 2016? And you can make a case for keeping Adrian, but I really do think, like you said, Adam, you are basing that case on what he's done in years past and not so much what he has done this season.
The 18th rated offensive player, according to Pro Football Focus for the Vikings, Mike Wallace. 55.8 grade.
And you guys also got to remember is that Adrian's due a lot of money and Mike Wallace is due a lot of money, and guess what? Harrison Smith is going to command a really large contract coming up. So it's easy, I think, for this team to cut ties with Mike Wallace. We've all kind of seen this one coming.
The writing's on the wall with this.
The writing's been on the wall for that for a while now, but Adrian is the kind of the elephant in the room again that you have to deal with this. And if I'm Rick Spielman, I am really super glad that he got the league rushing title because that makes him so much more attractive to sell to the Dallas Cowboys or the Seattle Seahawks, who maybe Marshawn Lynch isn't going to be coming back and they want to get rid of him because now all of a sudden you can do that with Adrian Peterson. And really, I do it because I think that, and now I'm getting fired up because now I think that the other backs on this team are a better fit for Teddy Bridgewater than what Adrian Peterson is.
In the back of my head, I still hear Adrian Peterson and his former agent saying, I don't know if Minnesota's the best place for Adrian Peterson.
It's not. It's not. Jerick McKinnon fits with this team better because he's shifty. You can move him around. You can line him up, and then you can move him out, and guess what?
He's an all-purpose back.
Yes, he's a legitimate threat as a wide receiver. Adrian's not. He catches them every now and then, but it's awkward, and I don't trust him catching passes. I trust Jerick McKinnon more to catch passes.
Not to mention, you guys were talking about Mike Wallace. You know the guy we didn't talk about, we talked about in the messenger today that could come back and give us that. He could be a cheaper alternative and give us, I think, better results than Mike Wallace. Charles Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Let him get healthy.
Clue what's going on with him, though.
No, that's going to be an interesting offseason story as to what really happened if we find out or what the status is. But there's no reason why he couldn't come in and produce like a Cordero Patterson. I hope and pray he's not on the team next year. There's a wide receiver spot taken up that we can give back to Charles Johnson, who I think will earn it and actually produce. Then you take the cap hit from Mike Wallace. I mean, money is going to have to be transferred elsewhere on this team. And like you guys said, Adam brought it up. Harrison Smith is your number one priority in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Mike Harris should be number 2.
I agree with that. You got to take care of these guys who produce day in and day out, especially when it's their time to get paid, and make them want to stay. Make them want to be lifelong Vikings. And you know what I was very surprised with today? Chad Greenway, how fired up he was at the end of the day. He's like, I don't want to go out like that. I'm totally okay with him coming back in a limited role.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's
and having
pretty awesome.
That veteran presence at linebacker with all these young guys, it's something the Vikings won't want to pass up.
I will take Chad Greenway back for another season because I believe that Mike Zimmer is smart enough to know that, okay, we're going to use Chad in even more of a backup reserve role, but he is still really valuable in that locker room. Because look at, what was his name? Was it Dwight Freeney?
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
Arizona? Yeah, like there's a veteran who is really good, in the locker room for the Arizona Cardinals, and we've seen it firsthand. He was able to step in at the end of a game and come up with a big play. Chad Greenway can be that guy. He can be that locker room guy for this team next year, and when needed, hey, stick him in at the end of a game, and he can make a big play for you.
If some injuries happen, and you got to plug Chad Greenway in, it's not so bad. Could be worse.
Mm-hmm.
So he's one I'd welcome back with open arms.
It's going to be interesting.
We're gonna have a lot to talk about this offseason, whether it's
we are
draft positioning, free agency,
which I believe it came out earlier.
Schedule.
Sorry to interrupt you. I think you just brought it up. I have a squirrel moment. Sorry, Adam. Draft positioning. We had my phone went off earlier. I wanted to add that in the quick hits, and I'm glad you said that. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but we are number 23 in the draft board now. So there you go. You're looking at where we're going to be at. If I'm not right, it's 24, but I'm almost positive we are number 23 coming up in the draft. So start getting your stuff together. I know Adam's going to be writing a ton and doing some scouting on for you guys. So
Yeah, I just checked. Minnesota is number 23 in the draft. Cincinnati has 24. Minnesota will select right after the Houston Texans at 22. It's Minnesota at 23. Cincy at 24.
I have a quick prediction to make before we wrap up the show. I'm assuming we'll wrap it up here shortly.
No
Um,
way.
the the prediction.
Podcast forever.
Yeah. The prediction that I am going to make is in regards to free agency for the Minnesota Vikings. I know there's a lot of people that I've seen on Twitter and other forms of social media that are already talking about how, man, the Vikings need to make a big splash in free agency.
They do this every year.
I know, and my prediction, because it's not going to happen, the Vikings are not going to go after a big money free agent. Whatever the top tier guys that usually get overpaid and don't produce for what they're worth, we're not going after those.
No RG3 to back up.
Nope, no RG3.
Bridgewater?
No RG3 for Teddy, no
No
Larry,
Calvin Johnson.
no Calvin Johnson, no Larry Fitzgerald. No, that's not going to happen, guys.
Oh man.
If the Vikings do bring in a free agent, if they do bring in a bigger name free agent, I think it'll be an offensive lineman
Mhm.
or a safety, because I could see Minnesota rolling the dice a little on Eric Weddle, because that's a situation there with the Chargers that
That would be amazing.
he wants out of San Diego.
And he is a monster, let me tell you. I would be so happy with that addition.
We got a really good trade partner. His name, he wears number 28. You can dangle him out.
Please, somebody just say second round for AP and just do it. Just do it.
Just do
I know Jerry Jones would do it in a heartbeat.
Rick Spielman likes making trades. He's pretty good at them. Let's see what he can do.
I mean, we didn't have 2 first-round draft picks last year. We have to have 2 first-round draft
Yeah,
picks.
it's an unwritten
year.
rule.
So,
that
I
was a fluke last year.
Well,
We
the
gotta have
Vikings
two
aren't
now.
picking like in the top 10 this year, so
It's
it's a little
okay.
harder to move back into the first round.
I'm not. See, you get rid of Adrian, and then you can get like another second-round pick, and
Pair them together. I
can-
want us to have another draft like we did in 2013. That's what I want. Let's just have 3 first rounders every year. We'll call it all right.
yeah, but one of those was Cordero. So
Well, I thought they were trading him for Manti Te'o, so I don't know.
Oh God. Whew.
he's kind of gone invisible.
Hey, you know what? As we get way off subject here for that draft,
Adam
we
got
did pick
fun.
up Sharif Floyd and Xavier Rhodes. So 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
True. No. But considering what they gave up to move back up,
Yeah.
but that's all I have for this week. I think if we keep talking, we're going to keep rambling and talking draft and free agency. It's way too early for that.
We talk about
The Vikings
rookie
just barely got knocked out of the playoffs, and hopefully the Vikings will be back next year, stronger, hungrier, ready to fight.
Well, next week will be fun, I believe. I don't want to jump ahead, but we're going to talk about overall game, balls, MVPs, and all that crap somewhere soon. We're going to get to do reviews, favorite games, worst games, all that stuff. So we're going to keep it very interesting for you guys, even though our season is done essentially till the draft. We're going to keep you updated. So,
We'll
and I want to
probably-
talk. What's that?
I was gonna say we'll probably be a little more chipper at the beginning half of the show. I
Yeah.
think we were all pretty down here until.
And
Yeah.
shows will be getting a little shorter too, I think. So you
Yes.
guys have that to look forward to.
We think.
Well, I
we-
want to do
say
the
that.
shout out real quick, and I want to do the plugs because I like my partners on the show a lot, and I'm
Have
just
at her.
the third wheel now. But I love this easy thing where I just click OK and talk about Vikings and hang up. I want to give a shout out to my friend Elizabeth from my hometown. She's a diehard Carolina Panthers fan, but she has listened to the last 5 episodes of the Purple People podcast, and thanks to you, Mr. Carlson, she now knows and is a huge fan of Mr. Joe Berger. So that's
There
really
we go.
funny. Talking about our hatred for the Pro Bowl a couple episodes ago and all that good stuff. So I'll give a shout out to one of my Carolina Panthers fans, Liz. I'm really jealous that your team is doing so well. But we will meet again in the next postseason. Don't you worry. We'll meet again next year because we're going to Carolina, and I'll be at that game. But
True.
I want to give a shout out to a very, very awesome year. I'm still going to brag on myself because the Vikings finished 11-5 like I wanted them to. It was a good year for us. We have a great coaching staff. We have our quarterback. We have a good nucleus of young guys all around on all sides of the ball. But that defense is going to be a force to be reckoned with. So hang your heads low today, guys. We had an awesome season. Mr. Adam Carlson writes for a website called the Viking Age. If you use the fan-sided app, it's amazing. You can get all the updates sent directly to your mobile device. Check him out. He also does a lot of writing for the show The Walking Dead at Undead Walking. Check his material out. And Kyle West, my other counterpart, the two head honchos of the show, he does photography in his spare time, and he doesn't limit it to just football or just portraits or anything like that. Go and check his stuff out. Kyle, was it Kyle J. West or just Kyle West Photography?
KyleWestPhotography.com.
There it is.
Yeah.
I still have, we haven't talked about in a long time for you, Kyle, how you can put anything any picture that you want on literally anything that you want. The squirrel was always my favorite.
Yeah, I sold a photograph of a squirrel that someone ordered on a pillow. I don't know why you want.
He has no limits. Kyle West has no limits.
It went to Kansas City, so there is someone in Kansas City.
There's a Chiefs fan with a squirrel on their pillow.
Yeah, it came from.
Even if you don't order something from KyleWestPhotography.com, go to Kyle J. West Photography. I believe it is on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Give that a big thumbs up. He'll be talking on there, posting some photos of some of the cooler stuff that he does every once in a while. He's got some superhero stuff, some nature pics.
And if you're a Vikings fan,
everything.
He has all kinds of cool designs and prints, so you can get stuff out in a picture or a T-shirt. So, just saying, if you want some off-season gear, support the local guys and the local businesses. It's a good way to go.
It's true. And that's all I have for this week. And I want to end just by saying to the fans on Facebook and Twitter, sending out death threats and hate tweets, stop it. Just stop it.
That's
We're
not
a better
who we
fan
are.
base than that.
Don't be like those Cincinnati fans that throw stuff at Ben Roethlisberger as he gets carted off the field. That's trash. Don't be like that.
No.
Did you guys hear? I know we're trying to wrap it up, but this ties in. Did you hear that Blair Walsh literally broke down in tears in the locker room?
I heard
There's
that.
a great
and I
article
also
about
heard
that over on the Viking Age.
Yeah.
There you go. Just gonna say that.
Yeah.
You guys got to check it out. He was sobbing, and his teammates came up one by one and gave him a hug and told him it was gonna be all right.
As bad as we feel, Blair Walsh feels worse. It's his job.
Absolutely. He feels like he let every one of his teammates down. So he doesn't need people telling him that he needs to die.
No, that's ridiculous. Awful. Come on, guys. It's a game.
Someone who has lost too many people because of suicide in my family and friends, it's not funny. It's not cool. It's not cute. It's not trendy. It's none of that. If you're that upset about a football game and it's that important in your life, get a hobby.
Do it better, too. Come out there and kick 50 field goals this year for the Vikings. There's a reason why he gets paid a lot of money and you don't. So
there's a dude who did that on Twitter. He posted a video of him in like a high school football field, and he's like, "Ooh, I made it."
Make the game-winning overtime field goal against the St. Louis Rams, and we'll talk.
Wonder how many takes it took him.
Yeah. Make that with the Super Bowl champ Seattle Seahawks coming at you. See how well that works out for you.
Yeah, let's see him try to hit some of those 47-yarders and stuff that shit this year.
And negative 20 degrees today. Good Lord.
On that note, please, stay classy, Minnesota.